like to welcome Rene Deceuninck, who is currently based in Belgium and has got an interesting story. What is your core area of expertise, your zone of genius that you bring to your students or clients?
As a kid, I was always inspired why people say things and their body said differently, and that inspired me to really concentrate myself on nonverbal communication, which today more than ever we all know it. It's by Albert Mehrabian, there was a professor. He stated in the 50s that nonverbal communication is 93%. Some of us say it's 80%, others say it's far more than that. But hey, let's see it like this. The biggest part of communication is nonverbal, and nonverbal exists of tonality and body language, and body language is 55%. So it intrigued me so much. I want to know more. I want to know how this works. And then I found out my own body language. And then once you start understanding your own body language, where you express, you can then read somebody else's body language and you understand it far more. And then once you start understanding your body language and the other person's body language, then you can start using it for different, for results, for actions, and that is a very, so my core business is nonverbal communication all the way. Yep.
What is your professional background, and what was your aha moment that led you to become a coach or trainer?
I was always intrigued by why people do what they do, why do they say what they say. I didn't know anything about body language, but then later on through life, I joined the armed forces and became a drill sergeant, and then from there I became an engineer, from an engineer a pilot, and I was always somewhere into teaching like engineering was teaching about building bridges and roads and stuff, and the teaching was always there. But then in 1995, I got introduced to the world of personal development, and intrigued me. It was like, wow, this is an amazing industry. And then later on, I got introduced to the fact of body language, and I said, man, body language. So friends of mine, they said, hey Rene, you have to go to a body language course. It's for free. You'll be so amazed by it. And I said, yeah, sure. Body language, that's for hippies. I'm not going. You guys go, come back and tell me what you learned and what you saw, And they said, no, come on, man, you have to go ahead. It's for free anyway. You got nothing to lose. I said, So long story short, they convinced me, and I went there. It was the best thing that could ever happen in my life. So how did I become a coach? Is just like I got dragged, and I was like, I'm still grateful today they dragged me there. So that's how I became a coach. Yeah.
What makes you the blue unicorn in your field, or what is your superpower?
Wow. I love to network, and networking, like they say, network is your net worth. What makes me, I wouldn't call myself, the blue unicorn, but I do know that the way I teach, the way I bring things to the table, people could immediately use it. They have immediate results, and some of them even call me back and say, hey, we did this and we did that, and we're so happy we saw that training or that course or that workshop or that seminar. So does that make me a blue unicorn? I'm very humble, but I do know that around the planet, I've been visiting now 43 countries. Was in the Middle East, was in the US, was in Australia, was in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Australia. I was in Thailand. There was all over the planet. And does that make me a blue unicorn? Again, I think I'm too humble for that.
If you could speak directly to one person in a company who truly needs what you offer, who would it be? What would you say to get their attention? And why are they the person who needs to hear it first?
When things go wrong at the bottom, I always look to the top. And why would I say that? Is that education today more than ever is so important. And if you lack educating your personnel or your staff or your managers, you will get the results from the teaching you give them. And if you don't give them enough teaching or enough training, they will lack certain things. They will have less revenues. The profits will be far less. The motivation to come to the job in the morning will be very low. People won't have the energy. I know people who work in companies where they treated very well. At midday they do all kinds of things. And then I know an Italian company, even that CEO of that company makes sure that when people go on holiday, they get an amount of money to spend during their holiday. People love that company. They would do anything for that company, and that is, for me, to come back to the question, is that what is very important is to look at the leadership, and the leadership should really be educated in a certain way, and then that leadership should take the decision to hire people to educate their personnel, their employees, their staff, their managers, whatever you want to call them. And that is super important to me, to address the leadership first, and then the leadership should address their staff with the right people who can train them, for sure.
Can you share a moment or story where you knew your work had made a real difference? Something that captures why what you do matters.
Wow. You are not going to believe me. I collaborated with a company called Success Resources from Singapore, and they used to organize Tony Robbins 4 days, Unleash the Power Within. And I was once Tony Robbins' bodyguard for 2 years. And after those 2 years, I was offered the opportunity to represent him worldwide. And at a certain time, I think it was 2018, the partner of Tony Robbins, Joseph McClendon III. And then one time we were called with a couple of trainers, we were called upstairs in the building. So I did not know what was going to happen. And we were there with I think 20 people, a lot of staff, but then we were 4 or 5 speakers. And Joseph McClendon appeared. I said, wow, I was not expecting that, because he's quite something in the world of personal development. And Joseph McClendon III also has such an energy and such a power. It blows you when you see the guy. It's just amazing. And it's I don't know why you asked me this question, but what I have here? Look. They gave me that. I presented to Rene Deceuninck to acknowledge your effort in changing lives together globally. So that was the moment I received that from Joseph McClendon. And I said, wow, that was just... It's so funny you asked me the question, because that thing is right next to me now. So yeah, that was, for me, was a very special moment, in a sense that when leadership starts acknowledging you with all the results from people, getting back to you, getting back to that leadership and say, hey, that is something, it's priceless. It's just priceless, yeah. So that was a very special moment. Yeah, it's...